Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And I want to shout out Louis Woodward, Jay Johnson, Zane Good, Kamandi Karis, John Crouch, So Serene Freedom, Sparker 3000, and Joy Brooke. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Okay, y'all, let me ask y'all something. Why is it that every time certain black immigrant groups come to America, they don't just come here to live, they come here to take over something? Jamaicans want to take over Brooklyn. Haitians want to take over New Orleans. Somalis want to take over Minneapolis. And we even had an African takeover attempt at Howard University, an HBCU built by Black Americans. So the question is simple. Why do they want to take over America but not their homeland? Well, here's the truth. America is a finished product. Their homelands are not. America has stable government, working infrastructure, global influence, economic opportunity, and legal protection. Their homelands have corruption, instability, weak institutions, limited opportunity, and limited global reach. It's easier to take over something that's already built than to fix something broken like their homelands. Black Americans spent centuries building the cultural, political, and social foundation of this country. Immigrants walk into a house that's already furnished and say, I want the master bedroom. And let's not fool ourselves. These immigrants are not just attracted to America, they're attracted to Black American cultural power. Black American culture is globally dominant, globally copied, globally profitable, and globally influential. So when immigrants arrive, they don't just want American opportunity, they want access to the cultural engine Black Americans built. Brooklyn, New Orleans, Minneapolis, and Howard, these are Black American spaces. Taking over these spaces means they're tapping into the source of American Blackness. They want the benefits of our culture without the burden of our history. Clock that.
97% of all the black people in the United States were here before 97% of all other people here are even arrived today. Remember that. Very important. When somebody starts telling you to go back where you came from, you say, hey, 97% of my people were here before y'all ever arrived. And so if anybody's going to leave, the last leave first. And the people who developed everything should stay here, because everybody else got a free ride. So let me tell you what happened between 1710 and 1712 and the Civil War. Let me show you what blacks did in terms of accumulating the wealth. Nobody else accumulated the wealth. The wealth was in black slaves. They keep flipping things over, tricking my people, for making you believe that somebody worked hard and that they got their money from land. They did not get their money from land. Land had no value. Land had absolutely no value. You could get all the free land you wanted in America. They had head rights and land grants. They gave out millions of acres of land whoever wanted. You could go in the United States and go out to what we call the frontier, where Indians were, and say, I own from here to that mountain, drive a stick in the ground, and go down and file a claim. The only time land had value when you put a slave on it. And according to President Andrew Jackson, he says that immediately a black slave would bring 75% of the value to the land. So between the time of enslavement and the Civil War, whites in America invested $8 billion into buying slaves. And when they talked about freeing the slaves, they demanded their money back. And they asked for reparation. They sent a letter to Lincoln saying, we'll turn the black slaves loose, but you give us back our $8 billion. President Lincoln, you all don't know it, he sent a letter to Congress asking for $8 billion in reparations. Congress says, that kind of money doesn't even exist. That's more money than all of our businesses and the federal budget put together. And that's one of the triggering mechanisms for the Civil War. They didn't have that kind of money. As a matter of fact, from the period I just told you about from 1710 to the Civil War, 2 out of every 3 people in the United States that had over $100,000, 2 out of every 3 lived in the South. A white plantation owner in the South who had black slaves had 400 times the wealth of a northern farmer.
I just showed you that clip by Dr. Claude Anderson to remind you that we built the wealth of this country and we built the infrastructure of this country, and countless inventions, innovations, and discoveries were done by our people. And we're still doing it. And these people who are coming here are just getting a free ride talking about they work hard. But they won't work hard anywhere but in America. So that's how you know they're lying. They want what we have, but they don't want to work for it. They don't want to pay the price for it. We have been in this country for over 400 years. 246 years of those years were of chattel slaves, and then 100 years of de facto slavery. We weren't here lollygagging. Our family members were working. We have no idea what they were doing in the Caribbean and Africa, that they haven't made anything out of their lives down there, and they come up here and want to be important based on what I don't know. But they listen to these white supremacists on social media, and they take on all of their talking points. Black people are lazy. Black people are criminals. Black people are this and black people are that. And they learned too late that those people don't have any power in this country. The country is run by the Constitution and about the laws. That's why it's important to vote. Even though these people keep telling you not to vote, you should vote, because you're voting for everything that's going to happen to you relative to the law. They're voting for everything that happens to you. So they went running there voting for Donald Trump because they thought, because they weren't Black Americans and because their family members hadn't been enslaved in this country, they had some kind of special place in the hierarchy, and they learned too late that they don't. Now they are taking over our spaces. That's the important thing. The spaces that they are taking over, these are spaces that we built. They come into our communities and they take over our spaces. Now that's something for you to think about. So the real question for Black Americans is, why do we keep letting people take over spaces we built? Why do we keep handing over cultural neighborhoods, institutions, and platforms to people who didn't build them? Why do we keep letting outsiders define Black American identity? And it's not about hate, it's not about division, it's about ownership, it's about boundaries, and it's about protecting what Black Americans created. None of this stuff is funny to me, and it's not cute. You're going to go to Brooklyn and take over Brooklyn, and then the white people are down there buying up land in Jamaica. That's what I'm talking about. Why don't you go back to Jamaica and take over Jamaica? They're not trying to take over anybody else's spaces. They're trying to take over our spaces. They think they should own our spaces, and we ought to have something to say about that. These Black immigrants come here because America is powerful, and they try to take over Black American spaces because we are powerful. And it's time we stop pretending we don't see it. It's time we stop acting like this isn't happening. It's time we start protecting what's ours. Because if we don't, somebody else will claim it. And really, they already are. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Okay, y'all, thank you for listening and have a good evening.